I think what really Ferguson means is there's no value in the market, is there's no one cheap enough for United to buy right now. So United are in a real problem now, I think. They're not going to invest in top quality. They've got to hope that another generation, like the class of 92, Beckham, Scholes, and Giggs and the Nevilles, comes through. And I see the youth team now, people are very positive about it, but I don't think it's of the same quality. So I think United are going to suffer in the next 3 years.
It would have taken one word from Alex Ferguson, and the takeover would have been impossible, because all the fans would have rebelled. He didn't want to do that. He wants to protect his own self-interest, Stark as that, really. Brilliant football manager, horrible man.
I don't want him to leave with fans thinking, actually, you didn't stick up for us in the end. And this is a working class man who was the shop steward in a governed shipyard for many years, who supported the Labour Party, who has then, since the Glazer takeover, seemed to distance himself from the fans. When people were protesting in 2005, he said, if you don't like it, you can F off and go and support Chelsea. And he really hasn't softened that stance much since. I mean, there were a couple of quotes last season where he said, I understand why people are protesting. But he hasn't said anything about it.
The whole game last season, I think we won 4-0, and I remember that was the first time I really kind of noticed it, like really kind of kicking off and kind of not being scared at all, but kind of being a bit like shocked and a bit, what's happened to the mood of Old Trafford. It's not friendly. There were very few player chants, but it was all about the Glazers. We hate the Glazers, we want them out. There were times where I felt the mood was really tense.
Love United, Glazers! Love United, Glazers! Love United, Glazers! Just understand Glazers! Love United, Glazers! We want Glazer out! 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 We want Glazer out!
I find it extraordinary that at the Carling Cup final, about 80 to 90% by my estimation of the fans were wearing green and gold, not red and white. And any business which can alienate itself so spectacularly from its core supporter base and core customers is clearly in some kind of problem.
The worrying bit is there isn't really a long-term strategy for this campaign. What exactly are we trying to achieve here? Is it as many green and gold scarves as possible, because that's not going to create a change of ownership? Is it simply about educating fans? That's great, but is it actually going to change the ownership? I don't want to give the Glazer family a penny, to be honest. I resent every penny that goes to them, because I don't see it as an investment in the club. Before, I was happy to spend the money because I saw it as going to the club. Now I know from reading the documents that nearly 80% of every pound I give the club will be going straight into the Glazers' pockets, either to pay down debt or the loans they've taken out of the club. And I'm pretty angry about that, because it's not their money and it's not their club. There have been estimations that about 30,000 people gave up their season tickets over the last few years, and lots of other people just bought them up instead. Now that's changed a little bit, because this summer we have pretty good data that says that United hasn't sold out their 55,000 season tickets. So now people who are renewing and perhaps feel a bit guilty about doing it, or don't feel perhaps they shouldn't be giving the money to the club, are saying, well, I won't have a voice if I don't go. And that argument I do understand too. You can't protest if you're not in the ground.
What we have in place and what UEFA are introducing through financial fair play and through their licensing system is a sustainability mechanism which delivers clubs being able to operate from season to season. And clearly different clubs will have different abilities.
There's a separate set of problems at Portsmouth which went into administration and where the football authorities were unable to control a succession of owners, some of them very doubtful. So each club is different, but what we have to do is to present an overall framework for proper governance of football.
Manchester United is a huge club with a huge following and huge revenues, and certainly from where we're sat, they're operating in a perfectly sustainable fashion.
when the Glazer family were taking over the club in 2005, there was much hope amongst Shareholders United, as it was then, and IM USA, that superfan Red Knights would come forward and rescue the club and put their own bid in, and that never happened. And of course that was a lot less concrete than the idea of the Red Knights is today.
You know, just the kind of like really romantic element of it, but you know, they care about the club a lot more than Glazers anyway.
I never believed it was a philanthropic exercise where the Red Knights were putting together £1,200 million bid and just hand over the club to the fans.
It's a bit of a fiasco really, wasn't it? You know, all smoke and mirrors, all talk and no action. They should have put up, you know, before going public with it really, but you know, I just can't see it happening.
They have to convince the Glazer family to sell it, and right now the family's asking for a premium that's well and above the actual value of the club on any kind of measure. But we might get to the stage where the club's finances are so distressed that they might well have a shot, and then we'll see. Maybe fans will get a say in the future of the club.
But you know, I mean, you do look at the Barcelona model. Yeah, more than a club. You know, fan owned. I mean, the club should always belong to the fans. For them to kind of be a part of the club, you know, of how it's run and the kind of financial element of the club is, you know, is surely amazing. But I mean, you know, unfortunately, football is all about money nowadays.
A lot of people point to Barcelona and say, look, that's an ideal situation, a fan-owned club, but you only need to read the papers recently to hear about the financial difficulties and the financial strains that Barcelona are currently operating on, having taken a loan to pay their players in June.
So I think we need to hear about kind of phase 2 of Green and Gold now, and there needs to be a little bit of leadership shown. And I guess that's one of my biggest worries with all the fans groups, that there isn't a coordinated approach, and that kind of shows some weakness. And that's a real shame, because actually if we group together, then it'd be a much stronger proposition, and then we could think about what really affects the Glazer family, which is the economics.
It could definitely work. Can't see it happening though. The level of debt at the minute the club are in, and it's getting worse by the day. You know, whoever bought the club would have to take on that debt. I can seriously see the only way that football in general, and United specifically, are going to get out of this is total meltdown. It's got to end somewhere. It can't go on forever, you know. You look at the wage bill, you know. No, don't blame the players, because I'd play football for 120,000 quid a week, but it just can't go on forever. It's got to stop. And I think the only way it will stop is total catastrophe. A big club needs to go bankrupt.